Hi everyone, we have a really special video for this next presentation. It is a quantum reversal of Victor's Aliens Will Meet Us, which Ryan renamed to Sentinels of the Future. When Ryan started doing this quantum reversal, he said he almost gave up, because it did not seem to be revealing the hidden messages, like some of the others he had done. So he prayed for a clearer connection, and meditated, and then came back to it the next day. When he did, he found some miraculous things started to come from it. In the beginning, it's still a bit fuzzy, but as he moved forward it became clearer and clearer, and he believes it is one of the best so far. The original, full-featured video is on Daily Motion. In it, you will be able to see Victor talking to Ryan's son Anthony, when he was about 10 or 11 years old, and sitting on his shoulder. You'll be able to see the difference between the two videos. Like his other quantum reversals, there is a multitude of prophecies, and a sizable amount of content, that confirms many other translations, that were not as clear. We are very excited about this one. It inspires us to continue on with the many more recordings and videos we have waiting. We are just beginning to touch the surface of what is to come. In Presentation 4, Victor talked much about prophecy, and what this means to the future of humanity. In this one, Victor begins to give us a more detailed description of what is going to happen. Ryan also talked before, on how some of the forward recordings, and quantum reversals may change, once they are retranscribed. This one is a good example of that. We're beginning to understand how the wave files, led by their nature in the quantum world, can take different paths to reach their destination. This means the captions may slightly or sometimes entirely change, depending on where they were cut, and reversed, and how close they relate to the correct timing, at which they were meant to be heard. As a result, there are several factors that can give Ryan a better and clearer transcription. They are as follows. 1. One of the main factors is the amount of time and effort Ryan puts into the translations, as well as the number of times he observes the characteristics of that particular wave file. It often seems the more he does them, the better they become, and the clearer the speech is. The second point is the timing, or the time that the translation is best suited to be revealed. This is also important. For example, if Ryan does a transcription that was meant to reveal something at a particular point in time, and that time has not yet come, then the audio will be a bit fuzzier, and the angels will only communicate what they need to. However, they may give Ryan enough in real time, to keep him and others interested. The third, if there is something in the transcription that does not make sense, or contradicts what we have heard in the past from them, then we know it needs to be looked at again. Number 4. Ryan always keeps in mind what God and angels are trying to teach us. While he's doing the transcriptions, there will be times when corruption tries to filter its way into the recording, so he has to be wary of that, and block it out. If it is something that does not sit right with him, and the image that God and the angels have projected in the past, then he knows he may have slipped out of the river. When it happens, most of the time, it is just a subtle error that can cause an entire paragraph to change in the message that God wants to teach. Number 5. Ryan also has to understand that currently there are not enough people observing what is happening here to reveal some of the more miraculous things that are yet to come. He knows there is a process that the angels are taking the few people that are observing through, so they can have a better understanding of how the process works. And finally, as Ryan mentioned before, when a wave file, phrase or sentence is cut, then copied and reversed, it will take some of the properties of the other particles within it, and they are entangled in the quantum world. So if the captions have changed in the new versions and you are looking in one of his older videos to see if the audio sounds different in the new versions, you'll be out of luck. No matter where they are, or how long they've been published, the captions may change and be clearer, with the newly revised captions, but the audio will remain the same, in the new as well as all the previous versions. So this next video of Victor's is quite long. It has 31 forward parts, and 31 reverse parts, which makes it in itself about 12 minutes long. After Ryan's commentaries, it will be too long for one video, so we're going to have to break it down into 2 separate presentations. There are some remarkable things happening in this first part, and the second has even more extremely important information and revelations. As we said, we believe it is one of the clearest ones so far, and hope you spend some time on it, learning Victor's accent as he channels the angels. In part 1, he starts off telling everyone how serious the reason for his talking is, and how it will be giving prophecy that can help change the world. We'll start off with what he is going to say in part 1 and 2. He says, "I'm telling you, our record is that I'm talking straight at them, so they can tell the reason is serious. We'll give them the antidotes from our prophecies, while giving every answer." Now let's hear that.
Now stop it, he said.
When Victor says he is talking straight at them, I believe he's trying to convey to the few that are watching how God's angels are answering questions that they may have. When he says he will give the antidotes for prophecy, I believe he is making a point that those watching will see how many of his remarks will be realized in the future. In part 2 he says, and a lot of the future too can yield the facts and the things that he picks up. I can talk just a tad. And this time will give them some prophecy and lessons. They've got to believe the history. Now let's hear that. In the past, most of the lessons were contained in the dream transcriptions, many of which were backed up by future events as confirmations. However, there was much that came to Ryan personally in these lessons that needed to be confirmed as well. He believes that many of these previous lessons that came during the dream transcriptions are going to be confirmed again, so others will be able to hear much of what he's already been told. So Victor talked about how these previous lessons will yield some facts in the future. In part 3, you'll also notice how Victor, Ryan and his son are all exchanging their thoughts in reverse as they speak back and forth throughout the entire video. So in part 3 he says, "Do you think I could talk faster with a broken heart? Do they know our Earth isn't that sure of its survival? Survival is very faint." And then Anthony and Ryan again speak in reverse saying, "And this is the time to ensure we have cognition in here." And then Victor continues with, "For the formula God will show Ryan. And somehow, we'll give it in the reverse rifts of time." In a previous video of Victor, he also spoke about the formula of God. Ryan had no idea what he meant at the time. He thought, perhaps this formula is the lessons, or the plan that Victor will be talking about soon. It was also interesting how Victor talks about the reverse rifts of time. Could we be talking about some kind of time travel or communication from the future? Soon we may find out. We know there may be some things here that Ryan's considered about the quantum world, and he may be wrong about it. Hopefully the angels will tell him when he's right, or if he gets off the path, in one way or the other. Now let's hear that.
Hey, I think you're saying something bad there, Victor. You're not supposed to say that.
What did you say? Yes.
Yes, it's so very bad. We'll play it back on.
In part 4, after he says, in the reverse rifts of time, he says good ideals are without collusion. In a way you do know you need to hope and believe in God, and He'll be helping for sure. You'll have a use for the symmetry provided by the angels. If you still can listen, we'll be honored. Ryan can't remember hearing the word collusion, until Victor mentioned it in this video, almost 20 years ago. When he talked about how good ideals are without collusion, that reminds us of how some governments are colluding with the oil and firearm companies, without any thought of how it affects our future. So it is interesting some of the things happening with President Trump relates to what Victor is saying 20 years ago, about avoiding the responsibilities of providing a better world for our children. It's very hard to tell what the truth is these days, and it isn't getting any easier. That's why we believe that this is the right time for this video to come out in its entirety. A couple of things that come to mind recently are how some countries exited the Paris Climate Change Agreement and how some world leaders won't even acknowledge that global warming is really happening. So now you can listen to part 4 of this video. In part 5 Victor says, with a lot of people, honor will be back. Tell them that God, He took a look, and knows better. So everyone cannot forget that this is real stuff. Are you up to the challenge that's for you? So if you don't like it, those here will never forget.
Sounds funny.
She goes, tell him, ha ha ha, ha ha ha.
You're a good boy today, Victor. Very good boy today.
So in that last part, he talked about how the purpose of this project seems to be eluding many who come. He predicts that during the time that this transcript is being done, the majority watching will still be reluctant to get involved. However, he does say that God has looked into the future and knows that there will be a time that more people will understand and appreciate it more. We just hope and have faith that what we are doing here helps humanity in any way it can in the future. We also know that many of the most important discoveries were seriously shunned during their initial stages, to later become very important for human evolution. Suppression, corruption and collusion play a major role these days in preventing the spiritual evolution of humanity. At this point, we may be stuck in a rut that we can't get out of. It often seems that changes only happen when enough people are ready to become part of learning and disclosing the truth. This usually happens when our options are limited and we finally allow ourselves to accept the truth. Victor challenges the people to remember what they see and hear during this journey. And says even if they don't like it, it should still be in the back of their minds to consider when they are ready. In part 6 he says, "I'd like to talk about your future before it's on the plate of a company and eaten. Humanity needs to find a new vision that we can put in motion for God and will get us up to heaven. The reason that some can hear it is because they're spiritual. Do you hear it? Now let's hear part 6.
How's Betty doing today?
It was interesting he mentions how what we often see as reality can be construed by the big companies, and if we continue to let it happen, it will affect the world through unregulated overconsumption of natural resources. He then challenges us to have a better vision for humanity's future, which in turn would affect the future of the eternal soul. Lastly, he makes reference to the people that wonder why they cannot hear some of these things that he says, and states that if you are not spiritual enough, you may not be able to hear it. In part 7 he says, "Yes, we'd like to just ignore him here. The future's earth needs a miracle. It looks like it's a bird." There are many lessons that we need to give Ryan for a new vision. All that he learned really is actually a setup for this new mission.
He goes, I see the play pick up penny. I can't talk.
In part 8 he says, "Take a look. Can you fake this? You cannot. You cannot cheat at the library. If you tell a personal lecturer that was in your area, has an easy view, that will assist you if you follow him." In part 9, Victor says, "Why would you want to tell the readers a tariff will affect some that didn't register? All of a sudden, you will seem aggressive. Obviously, the reason we must help them if they're registering is we're here to help who we know." You know something? Ryan just changed his mind about doing this in 2 parts and decided to do it in 4 instead. Otherwise this first part would be 30 minutes long. So we're going to end it here, and continue with part 2 of 4 tomorrow. Bye for now.
That completes this presentation. To hear more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit our website at theangelscrolls.com.